All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello, all. It is a bit of a Blue Monday, have to be honest with you. Kim is with us.
Kim, how are you?
That's not the reason it's a Blue Monday. Tony is here also.
Thanks, Tony.
In fact, the presence of Kim and Tony may be the things that lift my spirits today. I really thought the 49ers would win yesterday. In fact, they came out so beautifully, dominating for much of the first half. I thought it very possible that they were going to achieve what has eluded Kyle Shanahan, the coach of the Niners, and has eluded the Niners in their last couple of iterations. But no, I mean, what a game, going to overtime the way it did. We'll get to it. You'll forgive the bias, or at least the perspective coming from a 49ers bench. That's me and many of those who watch and listen to the show, and Kim. And the reason for that is this show was born in San Francisco on KGO Radio, and now it's evolved to something else. But it's not the only thing going on today, and I'll quickly mention what else is going on, and then I'll double back and we'll talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. I do have comments from Shanahan, Coach Shanahan, also from Purdy. I think we have some other stuff as well, and we'll talk with KGO Hall of Famer in a second. But I wanted to let you know that in the second hour, our favorite Britisher, Anthony Davis, joins us. I want to talk a little bit about that Burr report, the report clearing President Biden of any actionable, legally wrongdoing in the document retention case, contrasting it to the Trump document case. They're pretty much in different universes, but not mentioning, taking pains, it would seem, in football terms, for a late hit out of bounds to smear President Biden by dwelling on his memory, talking about the things that he couldn't remember, etc. We'll speak about essentially being I would say a tool in a political hit job. That's really what that was. And you can do it under the cover of special counsel because you can frame it from a legal perspective, which is what he did. Anyway, we'll talk to Anthony Davis about that in the second hour. Also, Karen Dawn comes by, a word about animals in the second hour as well. Mm-hmm. And Mark's True Crime Corner, there's been a change today. Is that right, Kim?
Yeah, we
There's
were
been a
going
change.
to,
What?
we
Yes.
were going to have this special guest with us today. And he's a former mafioso kind of guy who wrote this book.
I don't care what the book is because he's not coming. What happened to him?
He has to go by a pseudonym. Like
Okay.
this. So this is one of these
Right.
things where he's
Why
kind of been
yelling?
hiding, right?
Right.
It's very true crimey. It's all real. The stories
Okay,
are
well,
all real.
but
very
I'm not
Joe
spending any more
Boxy.
time on his book. Where is he?
Why are you
Just
yelling?
gonna tell you, apparently there's these big storms where he lives and his Wi-Fi is out and he's not able to join us because of some type of issue with the Wi-Fi connection. So we have to reschedule him, but it's going to be a really good interview when we get him on.
So his excuse is legitimate, do you feel?
We've all had those moments where the power goes out, and this might
All
be
right.
his.
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
You're right. We have to kind of roll with it. So
I'm willing to give the person the benefit of the doubt here. Absolutely.
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
And this is their new hoax.
okay. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll reschedule him, but Courtney will still come through and we'll spend a moment in Mark's True Crime Corner talking about Super Bowl party that we attended yesterday.
Oh,
so
fun.
that might be, and it might be of interest,
Yeah.
actually. That's the only reason I say it. It's not just going to be a time killer.
Right.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is a little bit of a tough day for us because I really wanted to see a Niners victory. And as I say, I really felt it was within our reach. So we're getting KGO Hall of Famer Rich Walcoff to join, and Rich will detail a bit of what we saw yesterday, and nobody knows the Niners as well as Rich Walcoff. He's just amazing.
He used to do the post-game reports for the 49ers wrap-up on KNBR.
Right.
We wouldn't have gotten this picture, though, if the Chiefs hadn't have won, then we wouldn't have got the big smoocheroo.
Oh, yes, that's Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. That is America now with a Chiefs victory. The only thing that would be more American is if she were hugging him with an AK-47. That would be the most American thing. Yeah. But very, very nice to see those two crazy kids finally achieve yet another dream. Something good finally happened to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. I'm really impressed with the way the Chiefs play. Kelce played well. The Chiefs played well. Mahomes is the difference maker, though. And the Niners played incredibly well. The defense stepped up. It was like a different defense.
Yeah.
And they forced turnovers. But sadly, in the end, it was Mahomes who was the difference maker, just a little bit more than the difference makers on the part of the Niners.
I don't know. Purdy, they say Brock Purdy played really, really well. They say he kept his air, his demeanor about him, that he didn't panic, that he was, he did a good job.
That's, I think, unquestionably the case. Ron Cook says, "Excuse me, Mark, you mean AR-15? Oh, sorry, you're right. Okay.
What did you say?
I said, I don't know what I said. AR something.
You said AK-47, which is a Russian
AK-47.
gun.
Oh, the Russian gun. Thank you very much. Yes, that would be absolutely un-American. Yeah, we only massacre people in this country with AR-15s. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for that correction. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I mentioned him before. He's a Hall of Famer when it comes to KGO radio, KNBR radio. When it comes to the Niners on radio, I just think he's without peer. So happy and proud that he joins us on this sad day as we were a bit downcast after a great game. It was an overtime game. And as I say, so many facets of the Niners organization that showed up on that field played beautifully. Played, trouble-free almost, with a couple of glitches along the way. Here's Rich Walcoff, everybody. Hi, Rich.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Yeah, it's a Blue Monday if you're a 49er fan. And it's the red wave of Kansas City Chief, what do they call them? Chief Nation or Chief Kingdom?
Yeah, Chief Kingdom. I know they really went for and you look, give the Devils their due. They have put together an amazing franchise, but you take Patrick Mahomes out and it's a different football team, but he is a clutch player. Wow. What a remarkable move,
You didn't really say if you take Patrick Mahomes out there. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is 21st century Joe Montana, okay? He is the best clutch quarterback in the league of this generation. So he was the difference maker. And also the fact that the 49er defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes, refuses to sell out or be aggressive in clutch moments. He's got this shell, two deep safety, Tampa 2 look that is bend but don't break. And in that final drive for the Chiefs, I think Mahomes was 8 for 8, and all he did was dump things off underneath, except for that deep crossing route to Kelce. But the Niners were playing nothing over the top, and you pretty much let Mahomes march down the field, get into the red zone, and then work his magic.
Well, I'll get to the overall impact and the suffering, I think, that's going on, particularly from Coach Kyle Shanahan. This is really heartache for him. He's had an amazing career, and He just can't quite get there. He had that huge lead dry up on. He had nothing to do with that. Meaning he was offensive coordinator. I think was it 2017 with Atlanta, where they're ahead at halftime, 28-3 over the Patriots, and then he has to sit there and watch. He's the offensive coordinator, and he just watches as the Patriots, win the game.
Well, excuse me. The knock on Kyle then and now is that he didn't run the ball more to milk the clock to protect the lead, and he kept throwing, which of course works right into the opposition's hands. And in retrospect, I think he would acknowledge you can't try to do that with Tom Brady on the other side.
So maybe I'm letting him off the hook too quickly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You extend the game. You want to shorten the game. The best defense against Mahomes or Brady is to play keep away, use the clock. Now, some would argue that Shanahan didn't run the ball enough in the second half. I don't think that was the story. Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, is a wizard, and he sold out to get after Purdy. And Purdy was something like 4 for 12 before overtime in the second half because he was under siege. But the 49ers were so cautious to a fault, they didn't do likewise against Mahomes. And I know if you blitz him, you run the risk of other things getting burned. But I think playing afraid to lose rather than dare to win never works out in your favor.
That's interesting because as they were blitzing, Purdy actually has very good stats against the blitz during the regular season, Rich, as you know. And I was surprised that they didn't run some screens or some, as you say, they were so blitzing on third and long or on key third down situations. Why do you think the Niners were reluctant to run a screen or run something that would, allow that rush to get to Purdy as it was going to anyway, and then you just dump behind it? I mean, this is an armchair guy looking at it, so please.
Yeah, it's always easy in retrospect and hindsight and whatnot. But no, I think you're right. I think McCaffrey in the flat, in the open field is, what you want. You put the ball in the hands of your playmakers. Now, unfortunately, George Kittle was out for a while. He only had, 1 or 2 catches, no factor at all. He's another guy, a hot read, as they say. You throw to where the blitz came from. And Purdy did okay a couple of occasions. But look, that Chiefs defense went into Buffalo and throttled the Bills and Josh Allen in the playoffs. They went into Baltimore and stymied Lamar Jackson, made him look pedestrian, and he was the MVP of the league. So Purdy's, he's not a unique victim. This is what the Chiefs do. This is the best defense that Andy Reid has ever had to go along with an offense that's pretty darn good, even minus Tyreek Hill and the big game breakers that they had a few years ago. I mean, they don't really have great weapons outside of Isaiah Pacheco, Travis Kelce, and Mahomes. They don't have great receivers, but they did just enough, and Mahomes was the X factor, like I thought he was, and he owned the day.
Well, the Niners defense stepped up, I thought, big time. I mean, they really you saw the Chiefs certainly you would think in the first half and at the beginning of the game, they were in disarray. I mean, they were really being owned by the Niners. Wouldn't you concede that?
Oh yeah, the line of scrimmage. I mean, look how the Packers torched the 49ers in the ground game in the playoffs. Look how the Lions got about 170 yards, I think a season high. They were shredded. They got stout, and they were playing beautifully. Now, losing Dre Greenlaw to a freak injury, jogging onto the field and tearing his Achilles tendon early in the second half certainly was a loss, because every opposing offensive coordinator is going to attack the weakest link. You're only as strong as that weakest link. Greenlaw is a Pro Bowler, and Oren Burks is a journeyman. So, that's something you hard pressed to overcome his loss.
This is from Luis. They shut down the Niners' running game. Purdy did fine and didn't turn the ball over. Mahomes is just the John Wick of finishers, and given even a few seconds, will kill you every time. Let me ask you about there are a lot of aspects of this game. We can hear a little bit from Coach Shanahan and Purdy as well here in a minute, Rich. But let me just ask you and skip to overtime. As I say, we can dissect other parts of it, getting to overtime. But in overtime, will you help us with this riddle as to whether or not you want the ball first or don't?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. The new overtime rule created this season because of what happened with the Bills and Chiefs last year, where it ended in a nanosecond, 13 seconds, I think, and the Bills never had a chance to get the ball. In the regular season overtime, the team that scores a touchdown first or any defensive score wins the game. If I get the kickoff and I score a field goal, you have a chance to win it with a touchdown or tie it with a field goal. In the new overtime rule, each team is guaranteed one offensive possession, barring a safety. So you could argue that you defer if you win the flip of the coin. So the other team will either get a field goal, touchdown, or punt, but you know what you need to win. That's the argument of deferring. The argument of taking the ball, like the Niners and Shanahan did, is that you can score and have the opportunity to get the ball a third on another possession if the other team ties you. Then you could win the game on the so-called third possession of the game. Let's say you get a field goal, Chiefs come down, get a field goal, next score wins, Niners would get the ball. That's what Shanahan said is why he elected to receive the overtime kickoff rather than defer.
Interesting. Yeah, really interesting. And, he did something, you can say what you want about Shanahan. He's clearly a genius in so many ways offensively. He did something I don't know that I would have had the guts to do. He went for it on fourth down.
Yeah,
because
I know.
I mean, really, Rich, what were you saying? Like, no, mistake. Just take the field goal.
Absolutely. And, it worked. So ends justify the means. I still say you play the percentages and you gauge the situation in the game. And that was a very ballsy move. But it reminded me of Dan, not as egregious as Dan Campbell of the Lions 2 weeks prior, going for it with a 24-10 lead on 4th and 2 at the 9 or 11, which turned the tide. And as the Niners said in the aftermath, when they stopped the Lions on that fourth down, instead of a field goal to go up 27-10, which would have been close to a dagger, the Niners got new life. They felt like, oh man, we got a reprieve. We made this big stop. It's shifted the momentum, jump-started them, and we know all the rest is history. Now, it wasn't the same scenario, but I thought the risk reward warranted a field goal there. But Shanahan atypically was more aggressive than he usually is.
Right. You'd say if you'd had that same kind of aggression defensively,
yes.
At least based, right? It's
yes.
weird that, yeah.
Yeah.
The 49ers sacked Mahomes 3 times, intercepted him once. He had a 52-yard across-the-body completion to Hardman 2 minutes into the second quarter. And then Pacheco fumbled, right? That was a big defensive move. They forced a fumble from Pacheco and recovered at the Niners' 8-yard line.
Oh, it was pivotal.
Yeah. So that shut down a KC drive. And then the Niners made mistakes. McCaffrey fumbled, right?
Yeah, and that's maybe the second time all year he fumbled at the goal line earlier in the year. I don't remember another one other than that and yesterday. And, of course, that goofy muffed punt.
The punt, right.
The rookie on the coverage team let it hit his foot. You never want to get close to the ball. Get the heck out of there.
God, that was crazy. That was crazy. So that,
Ray McCloud had no chance. He had to go for the ball because it was a live ball. Right. And initially it looked like it was his mistake, but he was trying to recoup the error of a teammate. So
right.
That was, all these things become pivotal. Turnovers, in the red zone or
that was a game. That was a game-turning turnover of the. Absolutely. I would suggest, right? The ball bouncing off of Luter, I think is his.
Yes, the rookie. I don't even know much about him.
Yeah,
it harkens back. It harkens back to the NFC Championship game at Candlestick Park in, I think, 2012, when the Niners muffed 2 punts and lost to the Giants, who went on to win the Super Bowl. if you recall that. I think
Sure.
it was Jimmy Williams.
Wow.
The son of the former White Sox general manager, Ken Williams. And I want to say Jimmy, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, that's very impressive, though, nonetheless, I want to say.
Do you remember those muffed punts?
I do. Yeah. Big.
That cost them a Super Bowl trip. Well, I'll be real honest with you, Mark. I was very conflicted watching this game because as much as I admire the players, management, the coaching staff, there are so many things that Jed York and this organization has done to the city of Santa Clara in the contentious relationship they have with the mayor and the city council, and the treatment of a lot of former employees. I don't have the same fervor for who they are as I once did. It's like, I know how sausage is made, and I don't know if I'm going to take a bite anymore.
Wow, that's an extraordinary thing. You think that it's a little too much of the tail wagging the dog now with the Niners' relationship to Santa Clara?
Well, read up on it from Lance Williams and Ann Killian of the SF Chronicle and SF Gate. They're strong-arming the buying city council seats, being very contentious, and this it's very litigious. The city attorney in Santa Clara has had lawsuits against the Niners for alleged breach of contract and other things. But I've just read about it. I don't purport to have inside intel, but what is on the record is very disturbing. And at a news conference a few days before the Super Bowl, Jed York was asked point blank in a rare public forum what he thought about the city of Santa Clara and their conflicts, and he said, "Next football question."
Wow.
So he doesn't exactly endear himself to Santa Clara residents, nor the mayor, city attorney, and others on the board. Well, on the council, actually, they have shifted the emphasis in the council because they put millions of dollars into the campaigns of pro-team candidates, and they won. So
it's interesting. It reflects the general heft and strength of huge money that's associated with the NFL. I mean, it's just you just cannot swim upstream against that torrent of money.
Well, look what the NFL is doing with the concussion lawsuits in the Players Association, fighting tooth and nail about their legal liability, even though almost everybody knows that the CTE and the depression and anxiety, all the debilitating injuries that the majority of former players have can be traced to their time in the league. But the league has been fighting tooth and nail for their culpability and responsibility for the medical benefits to these players. One guy said they're just waiting for it. One former player told me the league is just waiting for us to die.
Yes, I mean, I think that there's truth to that. It's a grim statement that's probably true. It's amazing that they, and I think it's in this context you're making the point. I think it's such a good one, which is, you can, the depth of money here is so great. And yet you guys won't write checks to guys who are, damaged for life as a result of helping propel this sport to the heights that it's achieved.
Yeah, well, the Boston University School of Medicine is the leading research institution on CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the brain injuries that all these players have. And they evaluated the brains, obviously it's only posthumous now, of over 300 players, and 92% had evidence of CTE caused by playing the game. Now, you could argue, the risks going in, yada, yada, but the league has been fighting their legal liability forever. In fact, they hired the same law firm that Paul Tagliabue, the former commissioner, used when he was on that law firm that represented the tobacco companies in their fight to be responsible for the dangers and damage that cigarette smoking caused.
Wild.
So that ought to tell you where the NFL is coming from.
Yeah, wild. Kim, did you have something for the great Rich Walcoff?
I did. Maybe not quite as serious, but I wondered if you saw that moment where Travis Kelce kind of got all aggro with his coach and bumped into him. And
Tony, run some of that while Rich talks about. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a picture of it. Here's a picture of that. I mean, just the anger, and he bumps into the coach and nearly knocks him over. And after the game, Coach Reed says, "Oh, he's just really passionate." But I've never seen a player do that to a coach before. And I get that tensions are running high and he cares about winning the Super Bowl and whatever. But is that a problem? And does that any repercussions come from this?
No, because it's the classic. Look, if he would have knocked him down and broke his leg and they lose the game, maybe there's fallout from it. Travis Kelce was targeted once or twice in the first half. He was open on the preceding play where I think Mahomes was struggling and didn't find the receiver. And what Kelce was doing was telling Andy Reid, the offensive mastermind, "Get me the freaking ball." And I am lit up. I am over the top. So those heat of the moment incidents are just that. And when it's all over, nobody holds grudges, or no one is saying, "Oh, Travis, you're going to be fined, suspended, traded, or cut," or anything like that.
Well, winning is a great elixir, by the way.
That's the ultimate deodorant. Well, but Kelce had, I think, 10 targets and 9 catches, and 7 of them after halftime, I believe.
I had him as one of the props to score a touchdown, and he didn't. In fact, just to speak to my fellow degenerate gamblers out there, I had Valdez Scanlon to get more than 20 and a half yards. How many yards did he get? He had 20. more than 20 and a half, but he was down to 20 after what, Rich? He caught that pass, and then he backed up. He ran back 4 yards. And he
were you screaming at the TV?
I was.
Were you screaming at the TV?
I was.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you yelling?
Exactly. Now I've got a couple of things from listener viewers, and I'll let you go. Thank you, Rich Walcoff, covering so much today. But this is, I think, super relevant. Old Emo says, if the 49ers had made their extra point, there wouldn't have been overtime. They would have won the game by 1 point. Thoughts?
Well, anything that happens, you could point to half a dozen incidents in that game that would have changed the flow. But it doesn't work like that. If he missed the extra point or missed the field goal like he did in Cleveland, and at the end, which would have won the game against the Browns, and Jake Moody, pushed it right. That's one thing to say. You would have won then because that was the final play. But to cite a blocked point after touchdown in the middle of the game and saying, "Oh, they would have won," no coach is going to think or believe like that. It's not.
But to be fair to Old Emo, I mean, you would have been ahead by 4, not 3. Right.
Well, true. But that changes a lot of things, and we can't speculate on the hypothetical reaction. What the Chiefs would have done, how they would have handled everything from that point forward. Sure, it was a key miss, but you can't cite it as the reason the Niners lost the game per se, because there's 90 plays in the game, on offense. You know what I mean?
This reminds me of when Rich took calls after the game. This is really great. Here's from TM. Should have fallen on the fumbled punt ball, tried to grab it and play hero. I don't think so. I actually looked at that play. And, Ray McCloud knows what he's doing. He's not, he's a very good return guy. I think he tried to grab it because that was the best chance to get control of the ball. If he tried to jump on it, you don't always get control just by jumping on it. Do you agree, Rich?
Well, yeah, for the most part. I mean, first of all, it is beyond bang, bang. I mean, that's in a nanosecond. He's got to make this decision. And there's a loose ball squirming at his feet. He's trying to pick it up. In a perfect world, you do generally want to fall on the ball because getting the extra yard at the risk of getting smashed and having the ball popped loose is not worth it. But, I'm not going to say that Ray is wrong to try to make something happen there. He was trying to get a hold of the darn thing, and it was just squibbing around. It was really,
as you say, he was covering for a teammate who, made a
mistake,
huge error. Yeah.
Don't be near the punt as it's bouncing toward the return guy.
By the way, this is true. I think this was said to Randy and other. Ray is a great name, says Doug, and it is not only a great name, it is the best name in the NFL, Ray McCloud. I love Ray McCloud as a name. It reminds me of every cool person I grew up with in Washington, D.C. And bravo, Ray McCloud. I hope he's around for a very long time. What happened to Debo? Asked Doug. It was weird. He goes into the tent, Rich, and he comes out. He was a beast after he came out.
Well, you know, it's funny. When he went down, he grabbed his hammy, and it looked like he pulled it or tweaked it, and you don't bounce back. There's no elixir. There's no painkiller. There's nothing that would enable you to play through a pulled hamstring. But he must have been cramping. That's all I can think of, because he came back with a vengeance. Now, unfortunately, and what you could cite this all over the place, he only had 3 catches, and Kittle had 2. Now, those are your 2 of your top 4 playmakers. And the way to win in the game like this is put the ball in the hands of your playmakers. But obviously, McDuffie, the Pro Bowl cornerback, and Snead, the very solid corner on the other side, are really good. And their safety, Justin Reed from Stanford, solid guy. This defense, again, they are number 2 in the league behind the Ravens. And in the postseason, they were just lights out. So, you know, you tip your cap to them. They are really, they kept the Niners in check, which not many teams have done for, 60 minutes.
Pardon the last couple of minutes here. I know that we're – and by the way, I saw someone in the chat. You're a bunch of homers. Yeah, I told you when we started. We were born in San Francisco, and we are homers. I unapologetically a Niners fan.
There you go.
So the question about the future, how many of these guys can you keep? How many of these playmakers that you talk about may be around for next season? Purdy's still under a rookie deal. I guess it's that one.
That goes another 2 years before he can renegotiate and get an extension. So they are living large, playing with house money, because Purdy makes under $1 million a year, and every other elite quarterback in the league is making 20, 30, 40 million a year, eating up a good chunk of your salary cap. The big free agent name of note is Brandon Ayuk. And number 11 is, quote, gonna get paid, because along with Debo and McCaffrey and Kittle, that's your Fab 4. Now they'd like to get a speedster. Ayuk is very quick and runs amazing routes. Debo is powerful and runs amazing routes, but neither is a burner. Neither is a guy taking the top off the defense. So that's something they'll look to add, I think, in the offseason. Ray McCloud, Ronnie Bell, the rookie from Michigan, are fast guys, but they don't. I think of a guy named Danny Gray, very fast rookie too. But they need a big, fast receiver and a need to re-sign Ayuk, and I think they're positioned to do that.
I so miss hearing you on the radio, and I love that I get to hear you here. Thank you for spending some time with us, man. Yeah, really miss you.
Yeah, well, you were kind to say, and as I said to you last time, if I was making a comeback, I'd ask you to be my agent.
Okay. Well, let's be in touch.
Okay,
there are many seasons to come. Yeah, Rich Walcoff, everybody. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you. Sure.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens. This is the Mark Thompson Show. Keep it to yourself.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Well, Shadow Stevens is probably a really good name also, right up there with Ray McCloud. But sadly, Niners couldn't get it done. I still have on deck and on ice, if I can get it, get to it with our time, a couple of remarks from key people like Purdy and Coach Shanahan. But I thought that was time well spent talking to Rich Walcoff. He's just so insightful, and even some insight into the Niners organization, which he felt may currently have some issues, with the community that they, quote, represent, in Santa Clara, in South Bay. All right, that's it for Niners. Smash the like button
Smash it with your iron rod.
Helps us with the what is it? The algorithms on YouTube.
Yeah, the very mysterious algorithms.
Yeah.
No
By the
one
way,
quite understands how they work, but they do.
We went to a pretty decadent Super Bowl party yesterday. Courtney is here because she stops through for True Crime Corner.
Yeah.
And a legendary True Crime Corner participant was at one of the parties. We went to 2 parties, Kim, because you can't just go to one.
You guys are pretty amazing. I mean, you're always on the move. You're the movers and the shakers in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, of course you would go to 2 Super Bowl parties, likely more.
It was great.
It was great. I loved it.
It was great. It was pretty great.
You probably have to sit down at the kitchen table and really sift through all the invitations you get for Super Bowl Sunday.
Well,
I mean, I would imagine there's
like sarcasm from Kim.
You place them all on the table and look at all of them together and think which one.
I'm getting that she's sarcastic now. I thought if she was actually
no, I mean real. It's true.
All right. So Kim's news. And then we'll visit with Courtney, and she'll give you a little sense of that. Because we had, if you're just joining us, our True Crime Corner guest is back east. And I guess there's some storm. And I know that there's a big nor'easter that's about to hit the east. But already, apparently, enough problems where our guest was going to be that he's lost Wi-Fi. So for that reason, he won't be with us. But Courtney's still on deck. We'll speak with her next after Kim's news. Smash the like button like a boss. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. Let's go right to Trump. Former president attending a hearing today in his federal classified documents case in Florida. So this hearing is currently being held in a secure room designed for viewing highly classified materials. Trump and his attorneys will meet for several hours with the judge in the case in a closed-door hearing without prosecutors present to discuss this case in detail.
That's a great picture of the former president there, Donald Trump.
That? Yeah.
Well, he looks like a sly... what would you call that? Sly, knowing,
like
unctuous.
I pulled one over on you.
Unctuous is a dingler. Yeah. Anyway.
Meanwhile,
that's a good picture of the current president.
Yes, it is. President Biden is still joking about his memory following the special counsel report that raised new concerns about his age. While speaking to the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference in Washington, President Biden joked he's been around a while, adding, "I do remember that." His comment came after the report released last week cleared Biden of criminal wrongdoing in his handling of classified documents after leaving the vice presidency, but the special counsel in that case characterized President Biden as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory who had diminished faculties in advancing age. Not what you want to hear, right? There are several reports that say this shooter at Joel Osteen's megachurch in Houston was a transgender person that had Free Palestine written on the weapon used in the attack. The 36-year-old shooter said to have entered the church Sunday afternoon wearing a trench coat, carrying a backpack, armed with a long gun. 2 off-duty officers shot and killed the person who was also accompanied by a 5-year-old child. So sad. I want to tell you that there's new Elon Musk news. This is very, very important, and it's a good picture of Elon Musk as well. I mean, how often do we get to see this kind of grin, this kind of Cheshire cat-looking smile? There he goes. Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk is going to have to testify in a probe by the SEC into his takeover of Twitter. A U.S. judge made the order in a court filing over the weekend. The tech mogul acquired Twitter in 2022, rebranded it into what's now called X. SEC officials are investigating whether Musk or anyone else committed securities fraud that year as the billionaire began buying stock in Twitter ahead of his leveraged buyout of the company. So yes, now he's got to go and testify and face the music, as it were. Let's talk a little bit about Alaska pox. Have you heard of this? Alaska pox.
Courtney's
Finally.
heard of it. She's
Has
nodding.
she?
Yes, she's apparently quite concerned. But
it's not something you want, really.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
She worries about a lot of things. But what? Tell me about this.
This is an elderly man who lived on a remote peninsula in Alaska who has become the very first known patient to die from Alaska pox. This is kind of a mysterious virus. It was discovered in 2015 by scientists in Fairbanks, Alaska. It's thought to spread from rodents to humans, but Alaskan authorities believe the victim contracted this disease after being scratched by a stray cat. And the man was immunocompromised and being treated for cancer. So obviously he had some issues before this, but he becomes the first person or patient that we know of to pass away from this. So it's kind of scary.
That is scary. So I'm unclear though how I get this.
I don't think
or how
you
I
do.
avoid it.
Yeah.
I think
I guess
if you're going to Alaska,
Oh.
you don't play with mice or
I see.
stray
Okay.
cats.
If you're going to Alaska, then
don't move to a remote place in Alaska to
see,
cabin
great.
with
Very
no
good.
running water or
All right.
electricity.
I think most of
us
us are safe.
know what you are talking about.
Okay, well, I think there's a possibility that
There's a couple steps before you have to worry.
all right.
That's not fake. That's
I
real.
would agree.
Okay.
I think you're all right. Don't stress about this one. Of all the things in the world to worry about, no. You know what a lot of people are worried about, though, is Valentine's Day. And it turns out a new study reveals nearly half of American men will turn to artificial intelligence to write their love messages this Valentine's Day.
I love that.
I would argue is a total cop-out.
It's a-
Write it yourself
It's a
from the
wild
heart.
idea, but it just might work.
I think it will work. Totally work.
AI message. Oh, here's a little love note I've written for you, Courtney. No, absolutely not. It's
Well, she'd
from
know
the
that I
heart.
didn't write it
Forget it.
in our house.
Again, a couple steps before any of that's going to happen.
I think the guys who go to artificial intelligence and chat GPT to have their love notes written, they should get a little credit
No.
for having gone to that trouble.
No.
And that's
No.
what I think. Yeah, I
No.
think that,
Absolutely not.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you don't just put in, write me a love poem. No, you want to write it from the heart about your relationship, about your love. You want to empty the contents of your heart onto the page.
No, you
Yes,
want
yes.
something so that she will
No.
No, exactly. All right, whatever.
According to McAfee research, 45% of men will do so. 27% of women will tap AI for help. So it's, they're not alone.
Well-
Let me
Last
kick
year-
down the door and talk to my cheap sons and daughters.
Right. It's
Last year,
you don't want to. But don't be. Let's be fair to guys. You don't need a big, expensive gift on Valentine's Day, do you? You just want
no.
like a nice card from the heart would be enough, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
a nice
totally.
AI card from the heart, though. That's where I draw
I see.
the line.
Yeah.
Last year, only a quarter of all Americans enlisted AI to write Valentine's missives. What's the point? Honestly, what's the point if you're going to have AI do it? Then might as well do nothing.
Well, AI could do some of it, and then you kind of just
Got
do
it.
a polish on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like change the names. Your girlfriend, your wife, the other mistress.
Yeah, that's right. Man.
Oh, Courtney.
Wow.
This
there you
report-
go.
Morning.
This report sponsored by Tenuta Winery. Now, here's a Valentine's gift. You get some Mark Thompson, Why Are You Yelling Red?
There you
Maybe a little bow tied around it. I'd rather have the wine than the flowers, to be honest. The flowers are going to die in the week. The Mark Thompson, Why Are You Yelling Red? Yes, please.
You get nothing.
You've got to call them, though, and you have to say, smash it with your iron rod. When you
Oh, yeah.
call.
Smash it with
Yeah.
your iron rod.
That's for a
because
10% discount if you want
That's
it to
for your 10% discount. The phone number is 925-699-4576, 925-699-4576. You can email Rich at tenutavineyard.com as well. But I like the phone call because, he's very friendly. He likes to make friends. And so
We spent the afternoon there. Remember, Courtney? We had a good time.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, really liked
Yes, it was really
Rich and
nice.
Nancy. Yeah.
Mhm.
that's all I got for you folks. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Mark Thompson.
It's unbelievably offensive.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Hey Mark, it's George Santos here. A lot of people are telling me you're a liar.
That's pure speculation. There's always been, in this country, 30 to 35% idiots.
Morning.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
Can you let him finish, sir?
You cannot say you love your country.
That was very inappropriate.
Don't talk to me that way.
What do you think I'm going to say to you?
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
What up, everybody? It is a Blue Monday. We are filled with Niners fans, but if you come from a part of the country or if you yourself were a Chiefs fan, well, then congratulations. It was a terrific ball game. I just wish it had a different finish. My other half, Courtney, and I attended a Super Bowl gathering, as well as a second Super Bowl gathering after the first one. The thing that welcome Courtney, everybody, and we will get to True Crime Corner in a moment, or we won't. You'll tell me what's going to happen with that, and then I have a serious update to a story we gave you last week, and it became so controversial. I'd like to think we had something to do with producing the controversy around it, that it's actually created a reversal in the decision that was made. I'll get to it in a second. But Courtney, I wonder if you could share with the assembled. We didn't, in a way, even want to leave the house to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But the first party, they said, well, we have the band from Santana.
Yeah.
Along with Earth, Wind, and Fire's surviving core.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I think there's only one left, but there are also a couple of other members of Earth, Wind, and Fire's band. A couple of them are East Bayers, and we have a lot of San Francisco Bay Area people from the East Bay. I was talking to one of the band members from Berkeley, and we thought, well, this is pretty cool. And then they said, what, Courtney? We'll make you a vegan lasagna. Yes. I didn't ask them. I mean, I always want to be, don't mention vegan because people don't like vegans already and they think you're a pain in the ass. I always just go, don't worry about it, man. We'll always find something to eat or whatever.
Yeah.
But they out of nowhere said, hey, please come. We'll make you a vegan lasagna.
I mean, yeah. But they had like 5 stations of food.
They had so much food.
Could have found.
They'd flown in
much.
Lobster and crab, apparently, for these buffets. It was incredible. I mean, I asked, it was so sumptuous and over the top that I asked all these questions about, where did this come from? How did this happen? This is pretty sumptuous as a dang word. Yeah. So and there are TVs everywhere, including one huge television.
Like blow-up TV.
Yeah.
That went from floor to very tall ceiling in the tent, which was a tent that you would erect for a wedding or some huge gala and event.
And at the back of the tent is a bar, full bar.
Yep.
And then in the tent, there are all these huge circular tables where you could sit, obviously, as you might at a table, but there were constant servers coming. There was a constant. I mean, the service was insanely good. It may have been like one of the best. I've been to Las Vegas, high roller, not because I was a high roller, but because I'm like a +1 or whatever, parties in Las Vegas on Super Bowl day. And I'm telling you, this rivaled all of them.
Yeah, it was great.
It was terrific.
Yep.
And then it's populated by all these people that Courtney meets who are high stakes poker players, a lot of them.
Gamblers. Yeah.
One of them is.
They're gambling there. They were gambling and playing backgammon there.
It was like degenerate Degenerateville, but imagine like high-end degenerates. Like they're all wealthy. Okay.
It was great.
And it was fun though.
But it
You
was
had a
a
good
lot of
time,
fun.
right?
Yeah, it was a lot. Although I didn't know when the game started. I don't watch football. So we leave the house and we get there at 1:30? And I'm thinking the game starts at 2.
Yeah, we got there at 1:30 because I wanted to see Earth, Wind, and Fire
wanted to see
and
the band, so it made
Santana,
sense.
and they were really good.
I mean, it flew by very slowly, but it was really a lot of fun.
And then
basically they had their own pregame show.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it
That's
was a lot of
exactly
fun. It really was.
Wow, and you guys actually left this party. This sounds like a place I wouldn't want to leave until like they're kicking everybody out at the very, very end.
I know, yeah.
Well, she didn't really want to leave, actually. Courtney, it was weird. She went from like not really being going, this is great. I don't,
Yeah.
But we screamed over at halftime. We drove to Josh Mankiewicz's house, the guy from Dateline NBC.
It was great.
And it was very, like, just the opposite, very low key, just in the living room, TV on, a handful of journalists there. And it was good. I actually enjoyed that. I thought that was a good little bookend to the, you know.
It was.
We started mellow, ended mellow.
I think that people were going to be progressively more drunk at the first party. So,
I would have been like, I'm sorry, Josh. I got to go back to the other house. This is
Wait,
below standards.
Yeah, you don't have Santana and Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
This isn't their second
Where's
stop.
the lobster and crab spread? This is ridiculous. Where's the floor to ceiling
ice
TV?
sculptures?
I mean, come
you,
on.
We are so, this is funny. Cabo Jeff says, Mark lives like the top 3%. We are so top 3% adjacent. You would, I mean, honestly, Courtney, I just imagine her going, oh, how come we don't have all this stuff to everybody that we meet? But we did have fun.
No,
and it was a good time. And there were a lot of Niners fans there, and it was fun.
I was rooting for the Niners.
Yeah. They had to do that thing where they do the ice sculpture both for the Niners and for the Chiefs and all that.
Yeah.
I have a correction, or not a reversal in a big story that we had last week. But before I get to that, Courtney, what happened to High-End Degenerates? Great band name, says Lisa. I love that. What happened to our guest today, who was going to be in True Crime Corner with you?
I know. Him and Greg with 4 Gs. I don't know. It's really sad.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Courtney, my bad.
Oh, no, go ahead, because you were really working with them. So.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I got a message from the publicist of this fellow today saying that lives in an area where there are very big storms, and his Wi-Fi is out. And so he's unable to join us because he has no connection.
I mean, that seems legit.
I mean, that's never stopped some of the other guests. That's a nod to the production, Mark.
I see. Thank you. Very nice.
But it was going to be really cool because he's kind of a mafia guy, right? Who wrote this book, and then he had to use a pseudonym.
Yeah.
He even to come on the show, he can't use his real name. So it's all very like mystery.
Well, because he's not here and couldn't make it, I am going to give you his real name, everybody, so you can let's blow his cover now.
No.
I will hope that we can reschedule him for another True Crime Corner.
Yeah.
So we really will not have a True Crime Corner tonight.
No, I mean
we have a corner, but there's no true crime in it.
Yeah, it's more catch up corner.
Catch-up corner?
Like, True Crime Corner. But
so we had the Super Bowl, we had the parties. Anything else you want to mention?
No, I mean,
my bags from our cruise still have not arrived.
God. No.
December 23rd, they were lost.
Yeah, no, they were lost. Yeah. They're not here.
I would like to have a cruise person on the
You should. I mean, the story it's so bizarre that most people think that we're exaggerating.
Social Butterfly Beauty did ask a good question. Did Greg with 4 Gs ever respond with what happened when he didn't make True Crime Corner? The answer is he did.
Yeah.
He responded because I kind of lit him up on Twitter in a playful way, but nonetheless in a, because we'd read his book and stuff on the Amish thing.
Yeah.
And he said, I thought Courtney, sorry I couldn't make it. I thought Courtney did a great job with the, so.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no. But it's hard to prep for today's guest because, you read the book and you learn about what he did in his life and where he is now. But I mean, it's really more powerful for him to tell the story. So.
Pinky says your luggage being lost is a true crime. Thank you. You're right. You're right. Very good call, Pinky. Should have had an air tag. Yes, absolutely. I understand. I've learned so much since.
Does the audience know what happened? Or are you going to tell it later, the full story?
Well, they're aware of it. I mean, I won't catch it. But in 30 seconds or less, they told me to put the bags outside the room the night before. Then they would be there waiting for me on the dock the next day. I tagged them just as I was told. And then the next day we go down to the dock and they're not there. And they haven't been seen for since the 23rd. Then after 30 days, which is the key cutoff, because on the 31st day, you can claim it with the damage with the company. Yeah. They said, oh, we've got them. We found them.
Yeah.
And we'll return them to you for $2,100.
It's just crazy.
Yeah. So.
And they sent like pictures of like someone holding one of the bags,
yeah.
like
a hostage.
Yeah. It's just
anyway,
crazy.
I did send them the money and they still haven't sent me the bags. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, now they're saying they can't print. It's just
there's
crazy.
A bunch of stuff. Yeah,
but
nuts. We'll get it. The reason I sent them money, you may say, well, $2,100, but because I think it's a little bit of a scam going on. I think that, and I want to kind of run it out, and I'll get that money returned. I will. I mean, I promise you, I'll get that money returned.
Yeah. Not your bags, but the money.
Yes.
Well,
do you follow Fargo? Julie's asking. The Fargo stories that are true and insane. Are you a fan? She's asking. You need to get on that.
I need to. I do. I need to. I don't.
All
I
right.
don't. You know what we are watching now is we're watching the Truman Capote and versus the Swans, the feud.
That's good.
Series, the second part of that series, and it's great. And I was going to cover Anne Woodward and the murder of her husband.
All right. Well, so next time we'll do
maybe
that.
Maybe next time we'll have the Aiden. Or whatever his name is. The gentleman from today.
Aiden Gabor is the guy who we, all right. So we'll kind of table True Crime Corner till next week.
Yeah, we'll have Catch Up Corner, and I appreciate you having me on. And it was very fun yesterday, Mark. I really enjoyed it.
Yep, it was fun. Well, that was it for Valentine's Day. So live it up. That's your Valentine's Day.
That is more than
birthday,
I've ever received
yes,
for Valentine's
indeed.
Day.
How about it for Courtney, everybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Yeah, I've got some big news on the show. It's related to a story that we did.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show.
I don't know if
announcement.
All right, maybe it's a major announcement. I don't know if I call it a major announcement. All right, I'll go with it. You'll remember last week, we featured the story of Richard Ploud. He is someone who toiled over 8 years to construct a replica of the Eiffel Tower, all in matchsticks. 706,900 matchsticks glued together. The Frenchman dreamt of getting the Guinness record. But after he finished this replica, Guinness, they gave him devastating news. They said that his Eiffel Tower was disqualified for being built with the wrong type of matchsticks.
What? And he spent 8 years building it with the wrong matchsticks.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And the following disappointment was so profound in his life that he shared it with many people. And his disappointment and disillusionment with Guinness was so profound that it spread. It spread to this show. We were astounded. You can hear in Kim's voice. She was devastated along with him. Why wasn't he awarded this Guinness record after 8 years of hard work? Well, Kim's disappointment, my shock, it was shared by an entire global community that got this word. And all of them, in the reverberations of anger caused Guinness to reconsider their original decision. Yes.
As well they should.
Guinness then reversed its decision, everyone, and Mr. Plow has indeed earned the title from Guinness World Records.
Thank goodness.
The key area of examination for Guinness, just to remind you, was that his matchsticks, Mr. Plow's matchsticks, did not have the ignitable end on it. You know, like a real matchstick, you can light it, right? You can. That's what it's for. But Mark McKinley, the director of records at Guinness, said that the organization regretted any distress it had caused Mr. Plow during what should have been a time of celebration. And upon reflection, Guinness, quote, had been a little heavy-handed with its interpretation of what constituted a matchstick. And he said that while Guinness officials understood that matches as a piece of wood with an ignitable end were the official kind of matchstick, they learned that within the community of people who build things with matchsticks, you see, Kim, cutting off the ends was standard practice to avoid what? Starting a fire.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Exactly. If you've got an ignitable end, it makes quite a dangerous activity.
And then you're halfway through the Eiffel Tower and the whole thing goes up in flames.
Thank you.
Yeah.
50 pounds of glue used. And the Eiffel Tower replica was complete. There you see the proud Frenchman, now a proud owner of the Guinness World Record that was kept from him last week. He goes from the doghouse to the penthouse.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you, sir. Or as I like to say in French, how do they say it? Congratulations.
No.
No. In Spanish, felicitaciones. What is it? Can somebody tell me? How do you say congratulations in French?
Google it.
All right. Well, anyway, congratulations. That's your big update.
This has been a major announcement on the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
Oh, it is.
It's felicitations. Yeah.
Félicitations. Félicitations.
Is that what you had said?
Well, I said in Spanish it's felicitaciones, so I figured it would be something. But I don't know. Say it again with her. How does she say it?
Félicitations.
Félicitations. Félicitations. Félicitations to you, my friend, monsieur, my dear monsieur. All right, Kim's news, and then I've got the great Anthony Davis. We go from French to my favorite Britisher. I want to talk about the Biden political fallout from the latest report. Also, honestly, there's, you couldn't quite have much more on your plate than Biden does internationally. And the latest remarks from Donald Trump, who threatens pullout from NATO every couple hours. He was talking about that before he became president the last time. And then, like a mobster, threatens the NATO countries, even as he runs for the presidency, if they don't pay up. We'll have that audio for you. We'll have that video for you. And as I say, Anthony Davis will join us as we continue. So Trump, Biden, and the scene internationally as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Let's talk about what's going on at our nation's capital. A $95 billion aid bill for Ukraine and Israel is advancing in the Senate. The money passed a Senate procedural vote with the help of 18 Republicans in what is a rare session on a Sunday. If the bill passes the Senate, which leaders hope could happen as soon as tomorrow, it will head to the House, where many Republicans have expressed opposition for this one. Secretary Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, has canceled a trip to attend NATO meetings in Brussels this week after being hospitalized again. Austin was taken to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center Sunday for what the Pentagon described as an emergent bladder issue. The 70-year-old retired general has been treated recently for prostate cancer and was admitted to the critical care unit. This time, everybody knows about it all. The NTSB is working to determine the cause of this helicopter crash that killed 6 people near the California-Nevada border in San Bernardino County. The crash happened late Friday night involving a helicopter that was based out of Burbank. The victims include an executive of a Nigerian bank, along with his wife and son, and the former chair of the Nigerian Exchange Group. All the major components of the helicopter were recovered at the crash site on Sunday. The chopper had taken off from Palm Springs. It was headed to Boulder City, Nevada, near Las Vegas. NTSB meteorologists and witnesses say there was rain and wintry mist in the area at the time of that crash. Another sad story out of Southern California. This woman, a 22-year-old woman, vanished while hiking alone on Mount Baldy, was found dead. The woman's body was recovered Sunday morning, about a week after she went hiking in the rain and the snow. On Saturday, a person alerted the U.S. Forest Service after spotting her body with a drone. The cause of death there has not yet been confirmed. A man who was trying to run people over at a Home Depot in Southern California shot and killed by the security guard in this instance. They have a crazy situation. You know, you go to Home Depot, you think you're going for a little afternoon of shopping, and then all hell breaks loose in the parking lot. That's pretty much what happened in Southern California, where a man is dead after allegedly trying to run people over in the parking lot of a Home Depot in South Los Angeles. The man shot to death by a security guard Sunday afternoon. Police say the security guard shot the driver of a Mercedes-Benz after the man tried to run him over. A second person was injured in the shooting and taken to the hospital for treatment. The security guard detained by police, but it's unclear if it was just for questioning, since there are no reports of him being arrested at this time. We have more rain and snow on the way for Northern California. A weak weather system moving in Wednesday will bring some showers overnight Wednesday into Thursday. Looks like maybe we'll get some snowfall in the Sierra as well, mostly above 5,000 feet though, but the potential for chain controls in the Sierra on Thursday. Into the weekend, we get light rain expected Saturday and then heavier by Sunday, and Southern California expecting to get hit with some rain as well.
I was seeing that with the totals in the mountains, you'd think with these storms we'd be, well over where we need to be. That's not the case. No. We're actually behind. So if the season stopped now, if you want to think of it that way, we would be in trouble from a water supply standpoint. So interesting. But so we need another few storms is the point.
Yeah, it's not like we had last year, which is, was basically storm after storm after storm. We've had a couple strong ones, but it has been nothing like what we've had last year.
Exactly.
So we're definitely looking for some more of it. Well, lastly, we'll talk about the Super Bowl again. Who's going to Disneyland? Yep. Mahomes had to wake up early after the party, haul himself, his family, his wife, his kids, all the way to Disneyland. I think he gets a pretty penny for this whole thing. But yeah, it's fun to take the family to Disneyland unless, you've been drinking the night before. Maybe you played a massive game. I don't know. But here they are. The fresh off of his Super Bowl win, Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes is the guest of honor at Disneyland. The now 3-time Super Bowl MVP set to take part in a very special parade in the California theme park this afternoon, complete with Disney characters.
Well, he literally has to go today.
Yeah,
they don't give him,
today. No, there's no time off.
That's unreal.
He had to go early too. He had to wake up early, get his whole family there. after everything, like the whole week of Super Bowl. Then it's hard to feel bad for the guy who, just made bank, because don't they get paid more if they win the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah, but I mean, that's a rounding error compared to what he's making even off of advertisements. I mean, the guy's got a fortune, but it is, like being in a car wreck, being in an NFL game, and the fact that he's got to rally early the next morning to go to Disneyland.
Pay you, though. They pay you big bucks to go. I think I was reading a story that said the first person that did the whole "I'm going to Disneyland" thing got paid 50 or 60 grand. So it must be a lot more now. So he gets a paycheck, All
right.
But he gets to go to the special parade. He gets to be in the parade. The tradition of a member of the Super Bowl winning the team saying the iconic "I'm going to Disneyland" phrase.
The parade, he wants to be in a parade of ice packs. That's what he wants.
Exactly.
But,
Sleep for a week parade is what he wants. The "I'm going to Disneyland" thing dates back to 1987. So they've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Americana. Can you show the Travis Kelce hugging Taylor again? Do you have that, Tony? Tony has it.
You mean
there's
the kiss?
a certain.
I got
the kiss. Right, they kissed at the end of the game. It was
kind of a hot kiss, kind of.
Oh, was it? I didn't realize that.
You don't
Tony's
think so?
Tony's got the streaker who was on the game. I don't know if he's, but he can't seem to find Taylor Swift.
Hold on, I got it.
Here
it took me a minute.
So there's Mahomes and his family, and there is Travis Kelce and his family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's pretty.
There they go.
Pretty
In for
beautiful.
the kill. Woo!
Little piece of America. Again,
There you go.
if we had an assault rifle in her hand, it would be the most American thing ever. Yeah.
This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Yes, it is. It is really good coffee. It's a splurge, but a good one for yourself. Find a huge selection of coffees and amazing teas. This is a wonderful treat. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com is the website. And you get your exclusive 10% for being a Mark Thompson Show listener. You just put in Mark T at checkout all together and get your 10% off. And then all of a sudden, your Coachella Valley coffee and tea arrives on your porch.
Yeah, they get it to you pretty quickly. I just got a bunch of tea in. I like the Earl Grey, the hibiscus. We've got
hibiscus is good. I'm drinking mango right now.
Yeah. They have an English breakfast, I think, also.
Yeah, they do. Maybe
Speaking
we should
of
get
English,
some of
we've
that
got
for
an Englishman
Anthony
waiting.
Davis.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
right.
we should send him some Earl Grey.
You know what? I might just do that. Let's see how he does today. And then based on his performance.
Because he's, the arbiter of tea, probably, being our favorite Britisher.
That is, I'll ask him about that. Yeah, they're
Which
big
means
tea.
that he's got tea standards and protocols and practices in place. And so I think it would be
processes and protocols and standards.
Exactly.
We should see what he thinks of the Coachella Valley tea. I bet he likes it.
Oh, I'm sure
Be
he'll love
interesting to see.
Yeah.
We should have some sent to him.
All right.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is with the greatest anticipation and the greatest excitement that I welcome into our mix my favorite Britisher. You know him from the 5-Minute News. He is the great, the one and only Anthony Davis, everyone. Please. Kim, how dare you not stand for Anthony Davis? My God. Kim is always a rebel.
I would stand myself, but I'm worried I might give away what I'm not wearing underneath the desk.
What?
I want to ask you first to follow up on Kim's questioning. Tea, you grow up with it, right? Is it a big part of your, right? It's kind of what our coffee is.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, we use it for psychological purposes as well. So if there's anything that goes wrong, whether it be, you fall in the street or 9/11, let's have a cup of tea and talk about it.
It is the fact that the British elevated tea to an afternoon kind of event, complete with, hors d'oeuvres, or I don't know what you call those things, those little sandwiches that, you know what I mean?
Well, it's called afternoon tea, so that consists of not just the tea, but also the sandwiches and the little cakes and the scones, not to be confused with scones.
Oh, what are scones?
A scone is like it's just delicious.
Oh,
It's just
wait a minute. You're saying that we say it wrong? Is that your point?
Well, I don't know. Let's call the whole thing off. I mean, it's
I see your point.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
I see you do.
Standards. Yeah, exactly. So
the true word is scones, not scones.
Yeah, have a scone. Fastest tea
you
cake in the world.
You kind of cheat it though. You kind of go scone. You could say it again one more time. Last time.
Well, think of it as going really quickly. Scone.
Well, then why does it have an E on the end, Anthony?
Because it's English. But let me tell you, in answer to your question, I've never tried that Coachella tea. But Yorkshire, the Yorkshire tea brand, which you can, I buy it on Amazon and it's 30 times more expensive than it would be if I was buying it in England. The Yorkshire tea brand is for me the kind of ultimate breakfast tea. Not to be confused with afternoon tea, because, of course, if you are serving afternoon tea, you would drink a different blend to breakfast tea. You can't drink English breakfast in the afternoon. It's too strong. So you have a traditional afternoon blend.
Oh, that's very clever.
Otherwise, you'll be up all night, Mark.
Well, we're going to send you this. I think you're going to be very happy. This is an amazing boutique place, Coachella Valley Coffee, and they do a lot of sourcing that you wouldn't find in the mainstream. So at minimum, I think to augment your existing supply, I think you'll enjoy it.
Thank you so much. My mum did a recent thing like that. She left some tea. She came to stay for Christmas. She left some tea that she'd bought. She said, try it. And I did, and it was disgusting. So I'm keeping it for her for next Christmas.
That's great. That's very great. All right. Well, now with Anthony Davis on board, let me get to some of the news. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
The latest, I would call it titanic kind of reverberation through Europe and many of the NATO countries comes from the former president, Donald Trump, who never really got the nuance and fragile nature of alliances to begin with, I'd suggest. But he made these comments. I would put him in the category of sort of a mobster making these comments, sort of pay up for protection. Tony, do you have it? Can you roll it a little bit? This is at a rally.
The presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay.
So, first of all, that conversation, of course, never happened. He just concocted
he's completely lying. I mean, what gave it away was when he goes that the leader or the president of a country said, sir.
Yeah,
well, that would not happen for a start. So,
and then when he said, when the leader or president of a country said, yeah, let's say that happened, I'm thinking, really? The whole thing is just so clearly, a lie.
Yeah.
But it does also reflect his view of the world, right? And America's role in it.
Well, he's just dumb. I mean, to not understand that we are a unified country, a unified planet. I forget how many countries there are. I think it's around 210 countries. Someone will have to look it up. I think it's around 210 countries. But, so NATO is comparatively small if you consider that there are that many countries. And so the alliance was set up and designed to save us from what happened in 1939 through 1945. Right? It was created as a safety net, protection, so that you would never see, the rise of some despot in Germany who then invades Poland, and the rest is history. It was designed to protect it, and the United States is a big part of that task force. Now, he probably doesn't know what it is. In the same way that he never read the Constitution of the United States or took any interest in the protocols or of U.S. international relations, the guy is a moron. So he is literally saying it because he's trying to get elected and is appealing to the worst kind of people, to isolationist, America first, xenophobes. That's who he's appealing to. Because remember, he said it at a rally. He probably wouldn't have said it if he was being interviewed by, Al Jazeera. But so he always changes his story based on his audience. And there his audience were, red hat wearing sycophants. And so he's like, yeah, I'm the strong man. It's just so depressing that we still have to take this guy seriously. And of course now that there are leaders of other countries, the NATO chief, for example, Jens Stoltenberg, he has said that any attack on the Western military alliance would be met with a united and forceful response after the announcement that he was effectively inviting Russia to do it. And, Trump's always denying his connections with Russia. And here he is effectively saying, I would encourage Russia to attack. I mean, this is the stuff of not just authoritarianism, but of an America-hating rebel, somebody who needs to be controlled. And this is the thing that should get him arrested, right? This is the thing that should prevent him from running for office, aside from all the other things that should stop him from running for office. It's terrifying, Mark, and it won't get the coverage it deserves.
No, it's interesting. I think it is getting some play, but you're right. The disqualifying nature of his rhetoric really isn't disqualifying in this bizarre Alice in Wonderland America in which we live.
Yeah, it's so weird, isn't it? Because I don't believe in the same free speech as you have here, because I grew up in a country where our speech is regulated. So the UK is still a free speech nation, but hate speech is not tolerated. And these rules evolved with time because things in society became less acceptable. To be racist is not acceptable. So therefore it goes into the category of hate speech. But for some reason in the United States, the First Amendment protects people from anything. You're allowed to be as racist as you like here. And I wouldn't mind, but this country has a much bigger problem with racism than the UK does, and yet we're going out of our way to protect it. So this really is the thing. I'm not what Elon Musk calls a free speech absolutist. Is that what he calls himself? Absolutist. Right. I mean, to me, that is just, you're a bad person. You're just a bad person.
Shadow producer Calvin Wong says, already betraying NATO, yet the right wing loves him. It is a weird thing that whether they love him or not, I'd suggest that the right, certainly from a legislative standpoint, the congressional right, if you want to think of him that way, they have rallied around him to the point that they've derailed the latest bipartisan border deal. It's a bizarre hold that he has on that party.
Well, that's right. And of course, a leading Republican, they're calling it, said Trump was simply ringing the warning bell when he caused global alarm by declaring the world would encourage Russia he would encourage Russia to attack NATO allies. So when I was reading this story, I was like, I wonder who this guy is. Well, of course, it's Tom Cotton. Who can at every juncture will support Donald Trump and claims that strength, not weakness, deters aggression. I mean, it's so childish because diplomacy is so it's such a great skill. It's something that America was always really good at. We had some great negotiators, and the United Nations has obviously played a big part in this. And coming out of the Paris Climate Accord was a huge, detrimental to world peace. Coming out of the Iran nuclear deal was detrimental to world peace. And he would have come out of NATO if he wasn't stopped and if his term hadn't have ended. And that is terrifying because it's not all about the bottom line. 2% of your GDP is an awful lot of money. America can afford it, but some countries can't.
Yeah, the idea, you pay your fair share. It's a question of what your fair share is. But it's interesting also, I would suggest that Trump's view of the world and, Biden's view of the world, I mean, Trump's view of the world is all through Trump. I mean, he just really looks at his brand as the most important thing.
It's his view of him via the world.
Thank you. And Biden has made Ukraine and support of Ukraine a key component of his foreign policy. So the imperative associated with supporting Ukraine is something that is being orphaned right now by, as I've suggested, this GOP derailing of the bill, even that's been broken out to just fund Ukraine or Israel. I mean, they're unable to get anything off the tarmac in Congress.
And this is all coming from Trump. He's made it absolutely clear that he does not want anything done that gives Biden any points in between now and November. He just doesn't. And that is the proof. I mean, the one that I thought was the most impactful, aside from, of course, the necessity to Ukraine and undoubtedly, Israel and Gaza, was when he said he wanted the economy to crash between now and then. And I was just like, if this isn't a clue to either independent or even some Republican voters that this guy is nuts and has no love for America, I don't know what is. He said he wanted the economy to crash, he wanted there to be a recession and the stock market to fall between now and November, just not on his watch. I mean, the economy is doing better than ever, much better than it did under him.
And much better than many other European countries, all of which were coming out of the same sort of COVID nightmare that we had.
Especially Britain, which has not even seen any positive growth post the pandemic. Probably because they're still paying for that track and trace system that they built for £37 million. So this is my great concern, is that how many things does Trump have to say that are disqualifying, both as a candidate for president and as an American, before people start to go, you know something, I don't think this guy is very good.
The Supreme Court is now facing this issue. They'll likely vote to retain Trump on these ballots. I mean, by, essentially overruling the court in Colorado that would remove Trump's name. And the reason, at least they seem to be citing in oral arguments, is associated with the precedent that it would set. If you take a candidate off the ballot in Colorado, would another candidate be taken off the ballot in Michigan and Pennsylvania, et cetera? It's an odd thing for them to say and be concerned with, precedent, that is, given the decision they made on Roe, given the decisions they made on guns. On one level, they say they don't care about precedent. It's all, they just make judgments at the court level. Even in Gore v. Bush, they said this isn't precedent. This is just this one time. Stop the count in Florida. George Bush is the winner. But here, they're all about precedent. They're all about what would this do in terms of voting elsewhere. Now, leave aside, it might be a good idea or not to have candidates removed from ballots. But it's an odd thing that the Supreme Court really, at a time that they are stressed from the standpoint of credibility, they seem to really be wildly political.
Well, you could start with the fact that Clarence Thomas didn't recuse himself. This is a guy whose wife has been implicated in the January 6th insurrection. So, that if that's the position that we're starting from, then we're not going to get very far with this one. It makes no sense to me that your high court judges are political appointees. That in itself is just weird. It's just weird because people are chosen for partisan reasons, and then the fact that you have a political court that is currently stacked Republican or far-right Christian nationalist is just weird. But you guys have got used to it. You think it's normal. I don't think it's normal. That aside, Donald Trump put 3 people on the court during his tenure, one in the last 2 weeks of his tenure, because he needed protection. He wanted to be saved from anything that was coming his way, because as we know, when he asked for full immunity last week and said, all presidents should have full immunity, otherwise they can't get anything done, he's basically saying, yeah, I broke the law, I'm going to break the law again, and that's what presidents do, they break the law. Well, okay, fine. You and Mr. Nixon have a nice life. But in reality, he knew he had a safety net there on the court because he had set that up. He chose some people that weren't particularly qualified. He chose, Amy Coney Barrett, in some weird extremist cult. Brett Kavanaugh likes beer, and Neil Gorsuch nobody can reach. And so these 3 were his safety net, and they came through for him. Because I listened to the oral arguments, and whenever anybody mentioned insurrection or insurrectionist or January 6th, one of those 3 changed the subject and was making these weird references to, the framers and the founders. And I was like, we watched it on TV, guys. Like, you watched it with us. It's not in question whether the guy's an insurrectionist. He said, come with me to the Capitol. We're going to fight like hell, and if you don't fight, we're not going to have a country left. He actually said those things out loud. And then he literally tried to fight for the steering wheel in the Beast to get them to drive him there.
Well, and he allowed his followers, we knew were armed, to try to get them to be able to sort of circumvent those metal detectors. And,
correct. And in fact, today there was a picture in one of the newspapers of someone firing a gun in the air, hanging on to that kind of access tower that was built for the inauguration. Firing a gun, which proved that there was a firearm there. And so, anyway, the whole thing is jokes. It's like your reality and my reality are two different things. I watched an insurrection on screen. I also watched, because they also argued that it wasn't an organized insurrection. That was one of the arguments. Well, excuse me, what about this whole fake electors scheme? What about, you had that guy from Overstock flying all over the country, and Roger Stone, all these people involved getting this fake electors scheme in place, sending fake envelopes, trying to get Mike Pence to switch them. How is that not organized? Even getting all these people to the Capitol, be there, it will be wild, said the Post. It's like, that's what happened. We all saw it. You saying there wasn't an insurrection and it wasn't organized is insulting, frankly, and you guys are Supreme Court judges. All it is doing is exposing your partisan, giving clarity to how partisan your decision-making is.
Well, I love that you've focused on that, because what will happen in the case of this 14th Amendment is that it will be both liberal justices and conservative justices that will vote against removing him from the ballot. In fact, even you heard Lenny Kagan, Justice Kagan, asking questions that pertain to what I was saying before, which is what happens if you take, wouldn't this open the door to being essentially removed from ballots if you're a presidential candidate across the board in different states? So, but I love that you have focused and underscored what happened before that sort of bipartisan, if you want to think of it that way, questioning, which is the total ignoring of Donald Trump's hand in an attempted coup. I mean, there's no question about it.
It was a coup in plain sight. And he's going to do it again, because this is the other thing that they're leaving out, is that January 6, 2021 was a rehearsal for next January. And undoubtedly, if Trump is on the ticket and he loses, he will claim it was fraudulent, and the whole thing will start over. And this time, the Capitol will be successfully overrun, because they'll have an even better plan. Goodness knows what it'll be. Hopefully, the National Guard will be allowed to show up this time.
It's the 5-minute news, and I love your weekend show on the Midas Network,
which went up against the Super Bowl last night.
I saw that. And you did okay, actually.
I did okay. Yeah, we had Professor Cornell William Brooks on, as you can see. He's the former boss of the NAACP, and a minister and a civil rights lawyer, and he's just amazing. So I do recommend that people check that out and catch up with it, because it was a very powerful episode. But I didn't even watch the Super Bowl, because obviously I was watching myself on the other side. But who won?
America won, Anthony.
Okay.
That's the... Anthony, we stole football from you guys. Is that right?
Well, I don't know that the
game... Didn't you have rugby there?
Yeah, I think I was going to say you stole rugby, because rugby is with the oval-shaped ball, and soccer is with the round ball. And
we took it and we improved on it, didn't we, Anthony Davis?
Well, you put costumes in and shoulder pads. So you made a kind of dynasty version of what we were doing. Like you're suddenly like wearing, head guards, whereas our lot, it was all just like broken noses and missing teeth and cauliflower ears. Yeah. And that's like real British, they call them rugger boys,
I see. Yeah.
Play rugby.
We like the slow corrosion of the human mind that we do through the concussive nature of the hits.
It's beautiful.
So you don't actually see the blood in the brain until many years later. It's a really special
what?
It's a I'm sorry. I feel we improved on rugby. I don't know, but I'm an American. In 10 years, we'll have guns on the field too. So that'll be that'll be the total piece of Americana that we bring. Check out Anthony Davis as he brings truth each and every day to you in the 5-minute news and the weekend show on the Midas Touch Network. Anthony Davis, you know I adore you. Thank you for being here. You're my favorite British.
Thank you so much.
I salute you, sir.
Thank you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm excited, Kim. I'm excited. Always excited on a Monday.
Why?
New week.
What you got?
Well, potential.
Kim, how are you?
I've got a lot of potential.
Anything could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I have something here that I don't know if many of you will remember, but on the chance that some of you do, I'm going to share it. And on the chance that some of you do not, I'm going to explain it. And it's a simple, but I think kind of fascinating thing that happened.
Okay.
The person who became the victim of a con man who claimed to be Sidney Poitier's son, this person has passed away.
Oh.
And the incident of her being conned was turned into a famous play and movie called 6 Degrees of Separation.
So this woman said she was conned by Sidney Poitier's son?
A guy showed up,
Okay.
and a guy named David Hampton, and he claimed, he called her and said, I go to school with your daughter, and my father's Sidney Poitier. He is in town to do direct scenes for the musical on Broadway called Dreamgirls. He said, but my dad's not here yet, and I'm in this tough situation where I don't have any money. Would you mind? I'm a friend of your daughter's if I came to your house and overnighted there. Remember, this is pre-cell phone, okay? And no way to really verify pre-internet who this person is. He shows up, this guy David Hampton, and he's supposed to just spend the night at their East Side apartment. They not only welcomed him in, they gave him $50 and some clothes. He asked her to wake him in the morning because he wanted to go jogging. And they tried to reach their daughter to establish who he was, but they couldn't reach her. So when she walked in to wake him up for jogging, he was in bed with a guy that he had smuggled into their apartment.
Oh, my. Okay.
And he turned over and said to her, this is Malcolm Forbes's nephew who was locked out of his house, and I invited him here. So he's got this name-droppy thing going on. And she threw him out of the house.
Yeah.
The husband, actually. It was her second husband, I guess, that threw him out of the house. Anyway, so that story, which I've just told you, is a true story. And it was turned into this movie and play called 6 Degrees of Separation. And it was embellished upon, and there it is. And in the movie, Will Smith plays this guy that I'm talking about, the con man. And that is Donald Sutherland. And who is the, I want to say, who is the actress? Google it. So, no, somebody tell me who the actress is, Kim, with the, I want to say.
She was in Greece, right?
Yeah. Google it. I can't believe I'm so embarrassed I don't know it. Anyway, the woman's name who was conned is, will somebody Google it and tell me, please, though?
I'm working on it.
Stockard Channing, thank you very
Stockard
much.
Channing,
Stockard Channing,
you.
FTW, baby.
Yeah.
Inger McCabe Elliott is the woman who was conned, and this slick-talking 19-year-old guy got into their house representing himself as Sidney Poitier's son, and she just passed away at her home in Manhattan. She was 90 years old. But it was a bizarre New York tale, and it hit at just the right time, right? If somebody showed up with that story now, you could easily check to see whether it was true. But back then, you could not. And there's even another layer, and I'll just mention it in the last 30 seconds, because they, having inspired this playwright to write 6 Degrees of Separation, were not happy that he had taken the story and embellished it and made all this money off of it. And that turned into its own controversy. But there he is, the dude who perpetrated the entire thing and charmed himself into the lives of these wealthy patrons of the art in Manhattan. So rest in peace to her. And again, Inger McCabe Elliott passes away at age of 90.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On Mondays, we like to check out the world of animals. We do it in a segment we call A Word About Animals.
Now, a word about animals on the Mark Thompson Show.
And we turn to the person who keeps an eye on not only animals, but like how animals are being played in various media across the world. Oh, I'm hearing myself back a little bit now, but here she is, Karen Dawn, everybody, from Dawn Watch. You can find Dawn Watch on Facebook. You can find it on the great World Wide Web at dawnwatch.com. And nice to see you, Karen. I don't know why we're getting a little, what is that, Tony? Any thoughts on that? Why is that? We're getting a little something from her.
Thanks, Tony.
Better now?
I think a little bit better now. Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Tell me about what we're focusing on today, Karen Dawn.
Something very close to my heart, which is the world of cultivated meat, cell-grown meat. First time I heard about this was about 20 years ago, maybe 17 years ago. A girlfriend of mine, Mian, at an animal rights conference, whispered in my ear that her boyfriend Gavrik was working on something that was going to change the world, that they were working on growing meat from cells, much the same way that we grow skin from cells to treat burn victims. And the second I heard of that, it just immediately struck me as, oh my God, that's the most wonderful, wonderful idea. Not because I want to eat it. I'm very happy not eating any meat. But because, so far, that was 20 years ago, we haven't had all that much luck persuading everybody else to give up meat. And I thought, well, if we can't do that, maybe we can persuade them to eat cell-grown meat. And
well, just to make the point, I don't mean to, and then I'll just shut up. But I was just going to say one of the great promises associated with what you're talking about is that this horror, which I'm not talking about just the planetary horror, the use of water, the amount of land it takes to raise these creatures, and then you get to the humanitarian horror, the way they're treated, the torturous, awful, grotesque way in which these creatures are raised. So all of these things are solved if you can come up with laboratory meat, scale it, and now it's cruelty-free. And if that's what people's appetite is, it can be satisfied without there being all of those impacts that I've just described.
Mark, nobody's asking you to shut up. That's awesome that you just said all of that. But yes, you've summarized it beautifully. These are the reasons I thought, it just sounded amazing. In my book, Thanking the Monkey, the section on cultivated meat is called Better Than Sliced Bread. And the next, I'm sorry. I should quote myself better. The best thing since sliced bread. That's what I called it. And
sure, it had all this promise, and there were all these companies moving into it, and there was all this venture capital money that was getting into this area. It looked like, oh my God, this is going to be not only a positive for the planet and for all of these creatures, but it's going to be a money maker. I mean, this is going to be a tidal wave of money. But what's happened?
Well, when I first heard about it, it didn't have any of that behind it. And that's when I thought, this sounds amazing. It sounds like the best thing since sliced bread. And unfortunately, what happened is then finally, when it caught fire, it kind of over caught fire. And the amount of excitement around it, it was probably promising things that weren't realistic. And people, for example, they brought it to market and they started in Singapore, they started selling some chicken nuggets. And it was like $20 for a bucket of chicken nuggets, but they were actually making those at a major loss, because when they produced the first burger cost $1 million to make. Now, a few years later, it cost $1,000 to make. So we're heading in the right direction. And
you're talking the first plant, the first cell.
Cultivated. Yeah, they've played with so many different names about what it should be called. I've always liked cultivated meat, or cultured meat, because it's from cell cultures. And that seems to be where they're kind of landing up.
But it doesn't matter what you call it, Karen Dawn. What's the situation with it? Because it's kind of, I was disheartened to learn that there have been some setbacks along the way.
There have been setbacks, but there's never been an industry that has hit the market that hasn't had setbacks along the way. So yesterday, there was a big story in the New York Times talking, I think it was called something like the revolution that died on the way to dinner. And, I read the piece and it wasn't fair. And if, clearly the journalist who wrote it had quite an agenda. And the truth of the matter is that things are happening slower than we might have liked. And it's certainly, if people were hoping that cultivated meat was going to be the answer to the climate crisis, well, that's not going to happen, because we've got a few years to turn that around. And cultivated meat is not going to be replacing meat on the shelves in the supermarket within the next few years. But the idea that because they've had setbacks, it's not coming is just ridiculous. And, for people who want to know more about this field, I, sent you guys, and I've asked Tony, I hope you can put it in the chat and also in the blurb about this piece online. I wrote a 4-page essay on this for the Progressive magazine, Beyond the Slaughterhouse, and this was a few years ago. And as far as I'm concerned, what I wrote then, things haven't changed all that much from where we were 4 years ago. They've improved, and now, actually they've changed in that they are actually selling this stuff now, and it has gotten the government okay to be on the market. But the issue is scale. They haven't worked out yet how to produce it at a scale such that it can really make a dent in the meat market. When color televisions first came out, my color TV that I still have 10 years later, I think cost $1,000, so I could buy it now for $100. So it bothers me that something that has so much promise, for the reasons that you outlined, it gives people an opportunity to eat meat without killing animals. It's really that death knell, they're ringing a little bit too early, without a doubt, as far as I'm concerned. In fact, in my own response to the New York Times, I quoted Mark Twain, a famous vegetarian who surely would have been way behind this product because he was vegetarian for ethical reasons, not because he didn't want to eat, the poison of meat or something. And he has this famous line that says, announcements of my death have been greatly exaggerated. And I think that's much where we are with the cell cultivated meat situation.
Well, I love that as usual, you bring optimism into my otherwise grim, pessimistic outlook on these things. But I will just say that from the standpoint of investment, which I think is so important, there has been, and this has not just been unique to this research, it is happening across the board. And so many of you who are watching and listening, you're living either in Silicon Valley, around Silicon Valley. We have a lot of Bay Area listeners, or and connect to Silicon Valley in various ways. And so that a lot of that venture cap money is going away. The world of exciting investment has changed, dramatically. And so part of that change has affected this industry of cultivated meat, hasn't it, Karen?
Absolutely. And the answer to that, Elon Musk apparently says that without government investment, there never would have been electric cars the way they are now. So, yes, a lot of the venture capital money has gone away. It's not the hot new thing that everybody's excited about now because they don't have a lot of patience and it's taking a little bit long. So, what we really need now is government investment. What we have is the opposite. We have got the government heavily subsidizing the meat industry. Still, from the gruesome Mustang roundups being sort of a small little area of subsidies that are gruesome indeed, on behalf of the cattle ranchers, which we've discussed before on this show, to allowing the factory farmers to not pay tax on, not have to pay taxes on. What I'm trying to, sorry about my.
They give them tax
here.
credits. They give them tax credits that are insane, so that essentially the price you're paying for a hamburger is so much lower than it actually would be. I mean, they're insane subsidies and tax breaks given to factory farmers, to meat production, and so you have none of those.
What they particularly do that I'm trying to say here, and I'm going to ask you because you are doing better with the words than I am today, is that most industries, when they pollute, they have to pay a price for that. And I'm trying to remember what that is.
An offset, I think it's called, but maybe not. Maybe
whereas
that's not
the
the
factory
word.
farmers get away without it. So it's just crazy, the kind of breaks that the factory farming industry, that the meat industry, some people might remember that during COVID, despite the fact that people were dropping dead in these meat processing facilities, let alone the animals, because of the circumstances, the conditions that they work under. The meat industry was declared by Trump at the time to be a vital industry that had to stay open. So that's the sort of thing that the meat industry has on its side. And
yeah, we've talked about that on this show before. It's a shameful thing that many of these people are in the country under illegal status. It's a lot of people who've fled here, and they're forced to work in these horrifying conditions, horrifying for every creature involved.
Right,
but
emotionally obliterating as well. Yeah, just awful and terrible.
But we will link to your piece because I really like your piece, the piece that you wrote, the Progressive Magazine piece called Beyond the Slaughterhouse. So look for that in the description of this show.
And I would ask you also to link to a fascinating conversation between Bruce Friedrich, who's head of the Good Food Institute, and the guy who's head of the Tufts University Department on Cellular Agriculture. And this was just a month ago, so a few weeks before this death knell came out in the New York Times, and they're talking about all the reasons for immense optimism around this industry. So I would love people to listen to that as well.
You had a fact, and then we'll wrap up. And I know you have another thing you probably want to work in, which is fine. But you had a fact that I thought was interesting, which was that 30% of animal protein is consumed by pets. Is that right?
Absolutely. And, on another time, I know people have said, Karen's dog's vegetarian and blah, 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 blah. That's we should chat about that sometime. But yes, what the pet industry does as far as animal product consumption is crazy. So, there's vegans who aren't behind the cell-cultivated meat industry because they think, well, it's saying that it's okay to eat animals. And
I don't know how many of those there are, but maybe. All right.
There's too many.
You talk to more than I do.
Yeah. Anytime I put out anything about cell-cultivated meat, I hear from them. And the thing is, obviously, cats need to eat meat, and dogs to eat meat. So, if we can grow it without killing animals, that would be awesome. I'm interested. I just wanted to know, when I chat with you, I don't read the comments because I, have enough trouble sometimes putting a sentence together, even when I'm not trying to read at the same time. But are people in general, I'm interested in how, people like your audience mostly do eat meat, but also do care about animal suffering. And I'm just interested in whether that or not they tend to be open to this idea, or if they just think it's like science fiction and horrible, or is
open
it,
to the idea of cultivated meat?
Cultivated meat. Yeah, that's grown much the way that skin is.
Well, whether they eat meat or not, I can't imagine that too much of the audience has a problem with cultivated meat. I don't see where there'd be a problem, although it may be in your mind there'd be an issue. Lab-grown meat is identical to actual meat. Yeah, because it is actual meat cells, Lori says. That's exactly right. They do this with human skin for grafts.
Lori's not your average gal.
Yeah. No, but
That's
Lori she's very well informed. It's been my experience based on her comments. But she can also be very difficult. Honestly, Lori, let's face it.
What?
But you look at somebody like Randy, if you want somebody difficult.
Troublemakers. What do the troublemakers say?
Yeah, he's a well-informed guy who likes to make trouble. If everyone went vegan at this point, you'd still have to have large-scale farming to feed everyone. This is the if everyone went vegan. I really must tell you though, I don't like I'm not on a vegan jihad, and I'm not here to browbeat my audience every week to vegan, and I'm really not.
I don't know what Randy's on about.
No, but worked in biotech and R&D for years, says Lori. Yeah, Lori's very smart, obviously, and so is Randy. So this is my point.
Yeah.
My audience tends to be very smart, many better informed on many topics than am I, and for that reason, they wouldn't reject something out of hand necessarily, like I wouldn't think cultured meat. Now, they may say, hey, man, I don't care. I'm eating this. I don't like the taste of the hot dogs because plant-based diet, whatever it might be, because there's a full range of taste on these substitutes. But in general, if you look at the comments, I think you'll find that people are fairly open to sensible solutions to various problems. And this is a real problem, so.
And it's a real solution.
And it is a real solution. I hope they can find the money and the support. And as you say, the government fix is in, which makes it a little harder. We're out of time. Love our time together. Again, it's Dawn Watch. You can find her at dawnwatch.com. Also on Facebook, Dawn Watch. Karen Dawn, everybody. Thanks, Karen. That's a word about animals for today.
Join the flock. Again next time for a word about animals on the Mark Thompson Show.
Wow, Kim, I can't believe it. I can't believe it, Kim.
It's over.
It is over.
I have a little reminder before we go.
All right.
Tonight, it's California Senate debate number 2. That is on KRON 4 in the Bay Area. It is on KTLA in the Los Angeles area. It's on all of the Nexstar stations. So that's KSWB San Diego, KTXL SAC, that type of thing. Anyway, that's happening tonight.
Yeah, that's important. It really is. And tomorrow, we'll talk about that. Either, I was going to say I would get the guy who is doing the debate tonight, Frank Buckley. He's a very good friend of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he's also a bit difficult sometimes to to nail down. He's got responsibilities. He does anchors the morning show in Los Angeles. But I might get Alex Michelson to talk about the debate. So we'll have someone and some way, in addition to sharing your thoughts about the debate, to comment on what's happening with that debate tonight. So glad for the reminder. Thank you, Kim. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tony?
Yes?
Do you have anything for me before I leave? Anything to ease my pain over the Niners loss?
Thanks, Tony.
Well, probably not now. But I was going to say, I found it better. You said what could be more Americana.
Wait a minute. Shout out producer Calvin Wong, a 5150. Courtney's Hallmark card and Mark's 10-gallon Why Are You Yelling Red supply. Yeah.
Nice.
I need 10 gallons of the Why Are You Yelling Red. Wow.
Why are you yelling?
Thank you, Calvin Wong. You're always a supporter. Jeff Jensen, I want to see the dancing weatherman already. Yeah, enough of this politics stuff. Big shout out. Thank you, Jeff, and big shout out to Calvin.
Big shout out.
The dancing weatherman stuff is all over YouTube. If you want to see it, you can see it anytime. And speaking of YouTube, Kim is doing another show after this. It's the After Party Live, so check that out.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Tomorrow, David K. Johnston joins. We'll see you then. Till then, bye-bye.